Terrible news out of Myanmar and Thailand. A major earthquake hit that area. 10,000 people could be dead. Before we get too far with this English lesson, I just want to say how badly I feel for everyone in the area who has lost a loved one. In this English lesson, we are going to watch a short news clip about the earthquake together, and then I will come back and teach all of the difficult terms they use. Terms like the verb scramble, rubble. We will talk a little bit about where Myanmar is located and some of its recent history. We'll talk about what mounds are. We'll talk about some terms we use in English when talking about earthquakes, things like epicenter and aftershocks, magnitude and Richter scale. We'll talk about what a wing is, and this wing has nothing to do with an airplane or a bird. We will talk about monks. We'll talk about what the phrase "I'm at a loss" means. We will talk about sounding the alarm and so much more. Let's watch the news clip together, and then I will come back and teach those terms.
The scramble to rescue survivors. Every minute counts, with hundreds still trapped under rubble all over central Myanmar. This one a happy outcome. But many hundreds of others are still stuck deep under mounds of mangled concrete.
First, we have scramble. It's a verb. For each of these terms, I will have a picture, I will have the official definition, and I will use it in a sentence. Scramble means to move quickly with difficulty. Here is an English phrasal verb using the verb scramble. People scrambled out of their homes in Myanmar when the earthquake started shaking the ground. One of the most common ways you will hear the word scramble is when it's used as an adjective, and it's used to describe eggs. It's similar to the verb. These eggs are all mixed up. There could be some confusion there. And if we go back to the picture with scramble, let's look at this sentence. The reporters scrambled to get an interview with the famous person. A lot of times when the verb scramble is used, there is confusion. They also mention the noun rubble. It means broken pieces of stone, brick, or concrete from buildings. After the earthquake, rescuers searched through the rubble to find survivors. You might also hear the term reduced to rubble. The buildings were reduced to rubble after the earthquake.
The scramble to rescue survivors. Every minute counts, with hundreds still trapped under rubble all over central Myanmar. This one a happy outcome. But many hundreds of others are still stuck deep under mounds of mangled concrete.
Let's talk about the geography of this area and the country Myanmar. Myanmar is a country in Southeast Asia, also known as Burma. A strong earthquake hit Myanmar, causing damage to many homes and buildings. You can see Myanmar is in the same part of the world as Thailand and India and Vietnam. Every so often, I will get a comment from someone living in Myanmar. Shout out to anyone watching from Myanmar now. I hope everyone you know is safe. Unfortunately, over the last couple years, it has been a bit confusing in Myanmar. They have had a civil war. The government was overthrown. There is often a curfew at night for people who live in Myanmar. In other words, people are not able to leave their homes after dark. Like they said in the newscast, that complicates things. The government isn't exactly stable, so getting aid to the people that need it might be difficult. Luckily, other countries have offered to give aid, including my own country of the United States. I'm sure the aid cannot get there quickly enough. Mounds are piles or small hills of something. In the picture, it looks like there are mounds of snow. Of course, you could have mounds of trash, you could have mounds of rubble. There were mounds of bricks and dirt where buildings used to stand.
But many hundreds of others are still stuck deep under mounds of mangled concrete. And panic keeps striking in Mandalay, so close to the epicenter. A series of powerful aftershocks, including one registering at a 5.1 magnitude, briefly stalling rescue efforts. There's devastation everywhere.
Mangled. It is a adjective describing something. It means badly damaged or twisted. Cars were mangled and buried under fallen buildings after the earthquake in Myanmar. I should mention the newscast is from a Canadian TV station. We pronounce the country just a little bit differently. Myanmar, Myanmar. You will hear both pronunciations. I'm pretty sure panic has only one pronunciation. It means a sudden feeling of fear that makes people act without thinking. There was panic in the streets as people ran to safety during the earthquake. This word might actually have two different pronunciations, epicenter or epicenter. It means the point on the Earth's surface directly above where the earthquake started. The devastation, the destruction is usually at its most at the epicenter. The epicenter of the earthquake was in central Myanmar near a small village. So you have the initial earthquake, the first rumbling or shaking of the earth, but then you can have aftershocks, and those can cause damage too. Aftershocks are smaller earthquakes that happen after the main earthquake. People were afraid to return home because of the strong aftershocks. Another word in English you will hear when talking about earthquakes is magnitude. That is a number that shows how strong an earthquake is. Here is just an example sentence. The earthquake had a magnitude of 6.8, which is very powerful. But remember, this earthquake had a magnitude of 7.7. Remember that number we just talked about, 7.7? Well, that is a 7.7 on the Richter scale. Let's talk about what the Richter scale is. That's a scale that measures the strength of earthquakes. The largest ever recorded earthquake happened in Chile, and that was a 9.5 on the Richter scale. On the Richter scale, the earthquake that hit Myanmar was strong enough to damage buildings far away. Yeah, in the newscast, they talked about buildings in Bangkok even being damaged. And unfortunately, it looks like many people have lost their lives when that high rise collapsed. We'll talk about what a high rise is in a minute. Stalling. Here is another verb. It means stopping or slowing down unexpectedly. Because of those aftershocks, rescue efforts were stalled. Let's get an example sentence. Rescue efforts were stalling because roads were blocked with debris. Take a look at the picture. You can use stalling in everyday life too. So it looks like this woman has work to do on her laptop, but she is stalling by playing on her phone. Do you sometimes do that? Do you stall when you have important work to do? Please let me know in the comments. I am guilty of that from time to time.
But many hundreds of others are still stuck deep under mounds of mangled concrete. And panic keeps striking in Mandalay, so close to the epicenter. A series of powerful aftershocks, including one registering at a 5.1 magnitude, briefly stalling rescue efforts. There's devastation everywhere. At this monastery, the earthquake demolished an entire wing where nearly 200 monks were writing an exam. Rescuers are using drastic means to get to whomever might still be alive.
Monastery. They mentioned that in the newscast. That is a place where monks live and pray. I was going to talk about monks a little later. Maybe we should talk about them next. Let's get a sentence that uses monastery. A famous monastery was damaged in the earthquake, and monks had to leave the area. Okay, we are going to go from 12 to 14. We will skip wing for now and come back to it. But monks are religious men who live in a monastery and often wear robes. I often see monks wearing orange robes. Monks helped people find food and shelter after the earthquake in Myanmar. Wing. But it might not be the type of wing you know. Birds have wings. Airplanes have wings, but buildings can also have wings. The official definition: a part of a large building. The west wing of the hospital crumbled during the earthquake and could not be used. I hope that is just an example sentence. I have not heard of any hospitals being damaged. A hospital could have a children's wing. Maybe that is the part of the hospital where children go to get help. Drastic means very serious or extreme. The government had to take drastic steps. You might hear that instead of means, to rescue people in hard to reach villages. Here is another example of drastic means. This person is stuck inside a car, and the rescue workers have to use a saw to cut the car. Rescue workers often have to go to drastic means to help people when their lives are in danger.
At this monastery, the earthquake demolished an entire wing where nearly 200 monks were writing an exam. Rescuers are using drastic means to get to whomever might still be alive. I can't describe how sad I feel, fellow monk Bone Tuta says. I'm at a loss when I see all this destruction. Foreign rescue teams are slowly getting into the country largely isolated from the world, but a severe lack of medical supplies and heavily damaged roads make progress difficult, and aid organizations are sounding the alarm.
One man in the newscast says, I am at a loss. Let's talk about what that means. It means I don't know what to do or say. I'm at a loss, said one man in Thailand after seeing his destroyed home. Earlier, we spoke about a hard to reach village. You might also hear it called an isolated village. Let's talk about what that means. Far away from other people or places. Many isolated villages still had no help days after the earthquake. And that person in the picture looks pretty isolated. I don't see any other people around them. What does it mean if somebody is sounding the alarm? It means warning people about danger. Local leaders are sounding the alarm about the need for food and clean water.
Foreign rescue teams are slowly getting into the country largely isolated from the world, but a severe lack of medical supplies and heavily damaged roads make progress difficult, and aid organizations are sounding the alarm.
What we're seeing here in Myanmar is a level of devastation that hasn't been seen over a century in Asia.
With the death toll already so high, projections show it could top 10,000 people. And the crucial window before rescue becomes recovery will close soon, experts say. In Bangkok, more than 1,000 kilometers from the epicenter, heavy machinery was brought in, where a high-rise under construction crumpled in seconds, trapping dozens of workers.
A high-rise is a tall building with many floors. A high-rise apartment building in Thailand shook, but it did not fall. Did you see that video of the high-rise hotel building where the water was falling off the edge? Skyscraper is another name we might use for a high-rise. Crumbled. Crumbled means fall apart or broke into pieces. You can see in the picture that cookie has crumbled. Several old buildings crumbled completely when the earthquake hit. You might also hear the word crumbs. That's kind of where that word comes from. We call small pieces of food crumbs.
In Bangkok, more than 1,000 kilometers from the epicenter, heavy machinery was brought in, where a high-rise under construction crumpled in seconds, trapping dozens of workers. Families wait and watch, helpless and exhausted. This family, 20 members strong, has been sleeping here since hours after the quake hit. Ganiga Numisi's husband Yotin was on the 24th floor, working as an electrician. I'll wait here as long as it takes until we find him, she says. Our youngest son asks where his daddy has gone. I tell him that Mummy will bring daddy home.
That woman's husband was an electrician. An electrician, that is a person who fixes electrical systems like lights and wires. Here is an example sentence using electricians. Electricians are working hard to restore power in areas hit by the earthquake. It's hard to say I hope you have enjoyed this English lesson because there has been such devastating news. Again, my heart goes out to everyone in Myanmar and Thailand who has been affected. Lots of homes have been lost and lots of people have lost their lives. Family members are grieving. If you're looking for more English, there is another lesson right down there that YouTube thinks you are going to enjoy or you are going to find useful. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.